everyone, welcome and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Jen, and tonight I'm going to share with you a really fun little card that has this super adorable moose on it. And I'm also going to share one really tall moose story with you. So I'm hoping that you just come on in, kick your feet up, grab something to drink, and relax or craft along. Let's go ahead and jump into this card project. I'm going to be using the Spellbinders Dancing Moose Klondike die. And this is such a cute die set. This is, he's almost like 6 inches tall. And on this card, I did cut him down just a little bit because I didn't have the room for a 6-inch tall moose. I'm actually gonna try a new size card. I'm gonna try a slimline card that will allow me to go ahead and leave the moose almost 6 inches tall. And so I've got the dies here. I did pull out my colored and patterned paper and some white cardstock that I'm going to be using for the card base. The other things that I'm going to be using are, I have the glue, tweezers, a blending brush, and I also have my little scalp machine for die cutting. Now this is an A2 size card, so that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. This pattern paper here is 4 by 5 1/4. I die cut the moose and I put him all together and I put him on this side of the card. And then I cut out this little hello speech bubble, and this was from a different die set. It's the Spellbinders Just Saying die set. And I put it on this side and I realized that probably these two should have been switched, but it still came out really, really cute. I love this die set so much. It's one of my favorites and I definitely could use it all year long. So I wanted to share with you how I made this. I'm gonna attempt to make my very first slimline card ever and bring you along. And then I'm gonna share with you a really fun moose story. There are 18 different cutting dies here in this set. Let me zoom out for you just a little bit. There we go. So 18 different dies, and I have already pulled the cardstock that I want to use. I've got the legs and I've got the head, the antlers, the hands. I need to make a muzzle, but I can't decide whether I want to use the lighter one here or this one here. I've got black and white to cut out the eyes, pink for the ears. The sweater is going to be done out of this blue patterned paper, some dark blue little accents. So kind of like this green on this sweater, a light gray for the other accent. I also have some boots here. So I definitely thought the boots would be light gray, and then the accent pieces to the boots could be in the dark gray. The other option is that I could use the dark blue for the accents on the boots as well. First thing that I need to do is go ahead and get everything die cut. I'll let you just relax and watch the process. I'm going to speed it up for you because it will take a few minutes for me and it will just take a little bit of time for you. Here I have all of my die cut pieces. I'm going to take a couple of pieces and I am going to add a little bit of ink around the edges, and you certainly do not have to do this, but I want to add just a tiny bit of dimension to these pieces. Okay, so I've got a little bit of brown here, and then I think I'm going to use a little bit of hickory smoke. And again, I'm just literally going right around the edge, giving it a little bit of something. So this is what I mean. And On camera, you may not be able to really see it. In person, you can kind of see it. I wish this was a little bit darker. I'm gonna try this black soot. Ah, that's what I want. I just want, just on the tips, a little bit of darkening just to add some depth. Okay, so let me tell you about the mousse. So about a year and a half ago, one of my besties and I, we were in Salt Lake for a conference, and we decided to go hiking a couple of nights. So one night we decided to go down a ways south, and we went to a hike that we thought would be really fun. We get out, it's not really dark, but it's not really light either. We get out of the car, we're going toward the trailhead. We see a crowd of people, and they all have their cameras and stuff. So of course, we're curious too. We decided, well, what are they looking at, right? And we go over, and about, 50 yards or so down in like a little creek bed, there's a mom and a baby and a bull moose just kind of walking along the creek bed. Well, he was not real nice, y'all. He was really kind of being mean to her and just basically wanting her to go where he wanted her to go, I guess. I don't know, but he wasn't really being very nice. So we're, okay, steer clear of that one. And then we decided that we were going to go on our merry way. So we go on our little hike, and and it was a good hike. The foliage was so beautiful. It was in the fall. So the foliage was really beautiful. All the leaves were turning. And this particular hike is called Donut Falls. We just had the best time ever. It really was super fun. And we were hoping we thought it was actually going to be like a big, ginormous waterfall. It really wasn't. It was more like a tiny little waterfall, but it was still fun. So we're going along. Didn't see really hardly anybody. Didn't see really any wildlife either. And I always expect that I'm going to see some kind of wildlife when I go on these hikes. But alas, I don't. Not usually. Usually I make enough noise so that, especially the bears, they are not coming anywhere near where I am. We had the best time. So we had to do a little bit of scrambling over some like boulder areas. We had to do some not rock climbing. I wouldn't call it rock climbing, but we had to like kind of climb up things and climb down things. And we get to the falls, and it was kind of slippery. So we decided not to go exactly up to the water part because we didn't want to get our shoes wet, and it was going to be a long walk back. And well, we go back, and it's not dark, right? It's, dusky. It's still light enough where we can see what we're doing. And we're just walking along, and there's not really many people at this time, right? So it's starting to get dark. Most people are not on the trail anymore. So it's really just me and her. And I think there was maybe one other couple, but we are maybe 100, 200 yards from the place where you kind of walk out to go get to the parking lot. So there's like a big gravel parking lot, and then you had to walk down this kind of I wouldn't call it a logging road, but like a big wide road that vehicles could drive on if they wanted to. Anyway, starting to get dark at this point. And we hear some rustling up in front of us, probably about 20, 30 yards. So we stop and peer, and to our right and down a little ways, we can see Mama and Baby, and they're moving in front of us. They had just finally crossed the road, and they were walking down into this like marshy, meadowy kind of place that we were passing. So, we're giving her some space, giving her some room. If you don't know a lot about moose, especially the females, they are vicious. Moose are definitely they're not good to make them mad. So mamas, we just stay clear of the mamas, right? And kind of like grizzlies, you just stay clear of those. Anyway, so we see her, let her do her thing, and we're, of course, recording this. So we've got our little phones out, and we're recording this stuff. And it's just so neat because as often as I have hiked, I have never really come up on a moose or a bear within feet of me, right? I just haven't. They're usually in the area, and then by the time I get to the area, they are gone. You know, I mean, yeah, I don't want to meet a grizzly face to face, especially if it's mad or hungry, but I just think it's cool to see wildlife in their natural habitat. And so we're standing there, and all of a sudden we both look at each other and we're like, where is the dad? You know, where's this male moose that we saw earlier? Y'all, no sooner had we actually questioned that out loud, both of us kind of at the same time, then we hear rustling behind us, and guess who it was? Yep, you're right. It was the Papa Moose, right? Oh my word. First of all, he was ginormous. This is definitely not a fishtail. I am not exaggerating. He literally came up right behind us, almost like as if he was coming to look over our shoulder. The breastplate of his chest was as tall as like where my head is, right? So I'm about 5'6", and that wasn't even like where his shoulders would be or his neck or his head. He was massive, and the rack on his head, oh my goodness. Anyway, so he is literally within arm's reach of us. So my friend and I, we both duck. Actually, we split. It was like something out of a cartoon. We split, went two different directions. And I was behind a boulder over here, and she was behind a boulder over there. And of course, we're both freaking out because we're like, what are we going to do? What's going to happen? So we were really, pretty scared. And, he started to go toward my friend, where my friend was. And then he decided that he was going to come and walk my way. Definitely some non-ladylike words were coming out of my mouth because I just was so startled, As soon as he walked by my boulder, I skirted up around the backside of the boulder, hoping that, he would just keep moving and not notice that I was there and definitely not turn around. But oh my goodness, he just kept going. And when I looked out, when I watched him as he was moving out, mom and baby had moved down a lot closer to where I had been. So that's kind of why he veered off course. And wow, we still have fun telling that story to this day, but it was so surreal because first of all, at the beginning of the hike, we had even said, we were kind of joking. It's like, oh, we definitely don't want to run into that guy, steer clear of him. And then we literally could reach out and touch him, which we didn't. I didn't pet him. I was good, right? I did not pet the moose. It was just so surreal. It was awesome. And then now it's kind of funny because have you ever noticed you buy a car and then you see the car everywhere, or you notice something, or you buy something, or you have an encounter with something, and then all of a sudden it's everywhere, right? And so now every time I go on a hike, I see 2 or 3 moose. Every time they're everywhere. And it's like I never noticed it before. But anyway, that, my friends, is my moose encounter story. I'll tell you a little more in a little bit. This is the face. So there's these debossed areas where you just kind of nestle these die cut pieces together. And look at that little face. He's so cute. And then I have the 2 muzzles. And I really actually like the lighter muzzle that has the little bit of brown around it. So I think I'm going to go with that. And I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the back. But this is what I mean about adding the dimension to the die cuts with a little bit of ink blending. And you can certainly not do that. There's a little debossed area in here that I can line this up. Make sure that's in place. Here's the difference in the faces. A little bit darker face and a little more realistic muzzle. So I really like that. And then you can see where I have a little bit on the very, very tip of his ears with that black soot. I just think that's fun. And I cannot take credit for that idea. This is Tina Smith. She's actually a really awesome card maker. Her channel is Cards and Coffee Time. And I stumbled across it and I just think it's really actually pretty awesome. So I noticed she does that a lot, and I've started trying it, especially when I can remember, and wow, it is it makes a difference. So she is totally right. Okay, so now I am going to get these antlers on here. And the cool thing about these antlers is that this glue will dry clear, but this part of my antler fills in that part right there of the head. I think they're pretty symmetrical there. And then you can see the little moose. That's so cute. Oh, I love it. I'm gonna let his head just hang out under a little acrylic block up here. And now let's figure out everything else that we want to do. I did a little bit of the black soot around the edge of the sweater. So we've got a neck or a top stripe, and then the 2 arm stripes. And then I have this little stripe here. And we'll get these down on his sweater, and then we'll come back in and put the lighter stripes. Okay, so here's what I want to know. Have you ever, not a zoo, I'm not talking about a zoo, have you ever out in the wild encountered, you know, a large animal? So like a bear or a moose or a mountain lion, you know, something crazy like that. Now I've seen lots of moose, right? Because now I see them everywhere. I feel like if everybody had a little animal assigned to them, mine would be a moose. I have come in contact with deer. That's kind of, I don't want to say not exciting, because it is. Oh, and by the way, just like on the face, this area is all, it's got these grooves, so you can tell where you're going to put your stripe. It's actually very handy. So anyway, I've come in contact with deer, bobcats down in Texas, actually I've almost stepped on several rattlesnakes, and then mountain goats, you know, like billy goats. Those have been lots of chipmunks and squirrels, but I kind of don't count those because they're everywhere. So I would say my biggest ones were bobcats, now a moose. I haven't run into a bear. Oh, I have come across wild cows, you know, like cattle. I think they were probably someone's cattle that was, you know, allowed to roam around free. So that was kind of cool. So anyway, I just think it's kind of interesting. And it's also funny because as many hikes as I've been on, you would think that I would run into a bear. I mean, I live in bear country, but nope, I have never run into a bear. Now I do make a lot of noise because quite frankly, I don't want to scare one. And I know that if I make a lot of noise, they will more than likely just move on about their business. Okay, so here's our little sweater. That looks so cute. It's pretty masculine, right? I mean, I guess I could make a girl moose. I'd have to put like flowers in the hair or something. That would be fun. This has had plenty of time to dry, so I'm going to put some glue on the end of the sweater. This is where these little cuffs go. Okay, and then these are the hands. They kind of go up underneath this sweater here. Yeah, I've decided that I've got to have a few masculine cards. This one is so cute. This is literally one of my most favorite die sets. All right, there's one little shoe. So we got 2 little boots. We have a sweater, our little face, our little body. So this is about how tall this little guy is. So I'm just doing a little dry fit right here. So that's what he looks like. I'm not sure I like that one. I think I like this one. So this one it is. In order to know like what I'm going to do next and how I'm going to put it all together, I need to have it all put together. This is an 8.5 by 11. So I'm going to leave it at 8.5 and I'm going to cut it at 7 inches. And we're going to score it at 3.5. Okay, I'm going to score it really, really well. And then this will make like a little valley in the paper. And then I'm going to take this valley and I'm going to turn it into a little mountain. I'll show you what I mean. There's a little score valley. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to turn the valley into a mountain like this. The valley is here and this is like the raised side. Put that to the inside. I think I got it off a little bit. We're going to see if we can make that look like we did that on purpose. So you can see ever so slightly, there is right here, there's about, I'd say 1/8. So this is going to be my card. I kind of need to see where everything's going to go. So here's what I'm thinking. I've got this moose here that's gonna be on the paper. So like that. For the sentiment, I have this. This is the Hello and Thanks dies from Concord and 9. And this is just a big chunky hello. And it would sit like that. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Okay, here's our little moose. I can go ahead and glue these little boots on. There we go. We'll put those under a block. Okay, so I'm going to bring in my little paper trimmer here, and I've got my 6x6 pattern paper we're going to use. I did go ahead and I just trimmed off that 1/8, so now my card is perfectly aligned, and this is 3.5 wide. I'm going to cut my 6x6 exactly in half. I'll have a little bit of a margin. So I'm going to cut it right here at this line. That'll give me a margin at the top and bottom also. I'm gonna cheat ever so slightly, and I'm going to put some washi on the back. We're going to tape them together on the back. No one will see that when we get that glued down to our card. So we have our card base, we have our patterned paper, and I'm excited about this. I've never made a slimline card, so I don't want to say I'm winging it, but kind of winging it in a way. I'm actually going to get some score tape, and I'm going to go ahead and get this down on the card base. I'm not going to pop up this panel. I'll pop up the moose a little bit. He'll have some dimension. The die cutting will have some dimension as well. All right, so I'm going to put that there. I'm going to stand up here, and I'm going to get this lined up. Okay. All right, I like it. I think that looks good. Okay. And by the way, if you make a slimline card, so like this is a 3.5 by 8.5, you could just use a regular traditional number 9 envelope, like envelopes you could buy in the boxes at the grocery store. So you don't even have to have a special envelope for those. So that's kind of fun. Let me deal with the hello. I need my shadow layer. 1, 2, 3, and then a hello. So all I'm doing is using some frayed burlap distress oxide, and I'm wanting to give it a distressed look, kind of like the little patterned paper that we have here. I think that is good. I don't really have a color like that. So I'm going to cut this hello out 2 times, and then I'm going to cut the shadow layer out. Okay, so here's what we have. We have 2 hellos that we can stack for dimension. And then I've got 3 of the shadow layers. So the first thing that I think that I want to do is just put 2 of the shadow layers together and see, because this is 110-pound cardstock, and I might not need 4 of these layers. Let me clean this up. All right, so here's my hello. And then I'm just gonna use some liquid glue. Gonna lay that down. Get it all nice and even. So the liquid glue is going to allow me to just move that around. That is really nice and thick. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put some mint tape on the front. I'm going to put my letters in here. So these just nest right back where they came from. So these letters are straight in relation to each other. I'm going to lift the negative back off, okay, just leaving the letters in place. I will put some glue on my letters. And if you were to cut letters out with your Cricut, you could do this same way. I know not everybody has wafer dies, but you could do this same way. Hopefully I can flip this over without it all coming off. I'm going to pull this mint tape off, and then I'm going to adjust very quickly. I kind of have to work quickly. Okay, check that out. Now I probably could have placed those letters individually, but I didn't. I wanted to do it that way. There is no right or wrong way to make a card. Let's get this card squared away. Got all the little elements here. I'm thinking because of the hello, I think I'm actually not going to have him do any dancing. I'm just going to have him flat on the surface of the card. I'm going to grab one of my print and cut stickers, put it back here on the back. So if I were going to make him a dancing moose, I would put these legs where I want them, and then I would put like one of these big foam round dots, and I would put it in here, and that would allow his legs to swing. And then the top sticky part of that would be on the back side of the sweater. So it'd be just like that. And I just not real sure that I want to have dancing legs. So here's going to be our hello. Let me double check. Oh yeah, those legs are on there. And then he can interact a little with the outside edge there. So I'm thinking something like that. So let's build the moose. We're going to give him a little bit of dimension. I'm going to use some 1mm foam adhesive. I'm going to have to I'll cut one of these. I need it kind of thin, so I guess I'll cut it into quarters. Okay, and then we'll get some on our sweater. All right, so we got all that. Then I think I'm not going to worry too much about over adhesing this one. So the only thing that actually is going to be flat is this. Okay, so here's our hello. Here's our legs. Here is our little body. Okay, the head is the most important because of those antlers. So I've got to make sure that this head is in the right spot. Okay, so now that I've got all of the release papers off, I'm going to put ever so tiny little bit of glue dot on each of these. And this just gives me a little bit of float time so that when I lay him back down here, then I can make sure that he's in the right spot. There is his face, very nice. And now this is going to go right here, so his body has to be about right there. So I'm going to get the legs ready. Okay, so we have that. I'm just moving the sweater out of the way, and I'm going to place those legs right there where that sweater would cover. So we're going to be covering up the little body. And we'll have our little moose guy right here. We'll have our little hello down here. And then I don't think I'm going to put any embellishments again on this card simply because I don't know who it will be going to. So that's about 1.5. This is 1.5. Okay. Wow. Look at that. My very first slimline card. I love that. It's very different from this one. As you can see, this was my first card. So I basically cased my own card. Copy and share everything, right? That's what CASE stands for. So I took my card that I made the other day and I cased it. I used similar color scheme with a little bit different twist, and I use a different kind of sentiment, and it's a mini slimline. Oh, y'all, this is exciting. I have never made a slimline card in my life, so this is fun. I am glad that you stayed with me to the very end, and I hope that you enjoyed the moose story that I shared at the beginning of this video. And I hope that at least that was entertaining and that you learned a little bit about how to make a slimline card. Thanks again for sticking with me through this card, and I really appreciate your time. Don't forget, like this video. It really does help the channel. Share it with your crafty friends. And if you're not already a subscriber, don't forget to hit the subscription button and the notification bell. And until I see you in the next card or craft, as always, have an amazing day and happy crafting.
Thank you all so much for watching today. I'm so glad that you can join me at my craft table. If you're not already, I'd love to have you as a subscriber, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. That way you'll know when new videos arrive. Have a great day, and as always, happy crafting.